Welcome to EVONA Origin Stories, the space podcast where we look to bring you extraordinary leaders from within the sector and their fascinating stories of early life, career, and how they broke into the space industry.
Today's guest is Daniel from LiveEO. Really excited for this particular podcast. What these guys are doing is really, really cool. They've pretty much nailed the ability to find an end use case for Earth observation. They're in the big industry. This guy is cool. The company are very exciting. He's looking to build a large international space data business by 2025, well on his way to doing that. And 2030, he wants to launch his own space hardware into orbit. So this guy, for anybody that's, I guess, looking to leave university and looking to set up a business, definitely listen to this one. Very, very cool guy, amazing business. This is Daniel from LiveEO. Thank you very much for speaking to us today. Like we say, really, really keen to understand your story, understand your path into business, your path into where you've got to today. Your company is doing extremely well. We've done our research. We've heard really, really amazing things as well from lots of different people around Europe and also in the US. So yeah, really, really excited to hear your story. So thank you for taking the time out of us today.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, for having me. Now I'm curious what the people tell about life. Maybe we can cover this later, but it's good to hear that it's positive things.
Yeah. I mean, what you guys are doing, I think, working with some of the larger kind of infrastructure type businesses and actually making that link. It's what a lot of people are trying to do at the moment, and you guys seem to be doing it very, very well. The company's expanded, massively. So, but we can come on to the company a little bit afterwards. To start with, I'd really love to know for you, because you're one of the co-founders of a very successful business. So I would love to know, where did it all kind of begin for you? Can you take me right back to the start? So kind of school days.
Yeah, let's do this. I have to say, maybe there are some stereotypes you will see. So for example, I'm a big Star Trek fan. I always was a Star Trek fan. And somehow I'm a person who can also be a Star Wars fan at the same time. So if we go way back in my life, even when I was 6-7 years old, I had this. I have 3 uncles, and 2 of them are so Star Wars addicted. So they always brought me into the Star Wars world back then. I even had like an X-Fighter, the size, I think it was taller than me when I was 5 years old or something like this. And I played with this. So there was always a passion for space, but also for planes at the early age. But I have to say, from background, it was not given, right? So I come from a family where I was the first academic, right? So it was not that my father was an aerospace engineer or something like this. So basically, if you look into my life, the first 15 years, I was always this science fiction, space interested person. But basically, I played football. I played a lot of football. So that also came from my family. I played it competitive. You could see me 5, 6, 7 days on the pitch. And this was really the early days. And school, to be honest, was like math and physics always worked without practice. So that's where I was really, really good. And then I played football.
So football and maths and physics was the life, basically. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So that's really interesting. So we've done a load of research, and what we found is that people that are in STEM, they're doing a STEM degree or they're out in the field, they're working in a STEM profession. 70% of those people are there because of their family's influences. So somebody in their family, is heavily involved in STEM or went to university or something like that. So does that make you part of the 30% then? So kind of going into STEM. Oh, okay. Really, really interesting. Yeah. So is it that it always just kind of came naturally to you then, or?
I think so. So, I had a really, really great childhood, right? So my parents did a great job, I think. But it was a very, very simple life, right? So we didn't have a lot of money. I was not traveling outside of Germany because we couldn't afford the flights, etc. But they always tried to support me, right? And what we have seen very soon is the talent for math. This was really that also in high school, I really didn't have to practice, and I just had A grades, right? So that that was somehow the talent, I think, also which helped me in the space industry. So it was. But I have to say, then when I went to university, right? So especially the first year, when you never really had to practice and everything just went. And then I went to university in Germany, RWTH Aachen. That's for mechanical engineering. That's the number one. And that was a big failure in the first year, I have to say. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, really? Yeah. So did you, what made you go for that then? So yeah, I guess math is related, but what made you look at the mechanical side?
So yeah, I was really thinking about what do I want, and maybe if I go back, there was a tipping point in my life. So when I was 15, I was really going for the football thing, right? And I was really successful back then, but then I had a big injury on my knee, so I was not able to play for 1.5 years. So this lazy guy who was talented in math could not. I spent the energy on sports, right? I could not do this anymore. So in the final years of high school, I spent it there, and then also had a good qualification for university, right? But this was a big tipping point that actually my energy then was going into this one, and for me it was clear that I wanted to do something technical. I was between IT and math, so I even looked into some dual stuff on math and IT. But at the end, I thought, space, that's cool. So I started mechanical engineering really with going to space later. Yeah.
I see. Okay, so what was it that came first then? So so the football was obviously the most important thing. Whereabouts were you playing? By the way, were you striker, defense, or midfield, or?
I was mainly midfield on the outside.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, nice, yeah. I used to play out on the right wing, and I did. So I was exactly the same. I was obsessed with football. I used to play like 7 days a week as well. And then it's kind of puberty, and then you discover music and and girls, and it all just kind of falls apart. But yeah. So it's interesting. So okay. So there'll be lots of people that will be listening to this, and they're maybe in school, they're at that crossroads. It's really interesting that you wanted to go into space and you automatically thought mechanical. It's like, I guess to go into space, you need to build something, from a mechanical standpoint. So was that kind of the thought process then?
Yeah, definitely. And I think when I compared different universities and their programs, and what I liked about the university in Aachen is that the first 2 years, right, were really the same for everyone. It was a lot of thermodynamics, a lot of math, right, higher mathematics, and so on. And it was really helping you in the first 2 years to understand where do you want to specialize, right? And I knew also for space, there are so many opportunities to work in the space industry. But I thought, okay, let me just get this general background in engineering. And I mean, we also had some computer science classes in there, right? Or simulation classes. And then I thought, okay, this is then the baseline to really know what you want to do later, right? In the space industry. And for me, what I realized very, very, very soon, and I think that's also why I like Earth observation so much. I'm a very visual person who likes math. And for me, it was then, I realized at university then that I have a passion for aerodynamics. I really like it because you are looking at shapes, like you see the whole systems of planes or cars, and it's very complex physics behind this, but you always see something visual, right? And this is also, I think, something which I really liked. That's why in university then I specialized a lot on aerodynamics. I think the first, like we had some projects we need to do. For example, simulated the re-entry with all the atmospheric things. That was a tough one. Yeah.
So knowing what you know now, would you have changed anything about your sort of path through university? Because that it's always a crossroads for people, right? People there, and there's a lot happening in your life at the time that you go to university. There's a lot of changes in you as a person. You're trying to figure yourself out and everything. And when it comes to choosing, a degree course, I mean, does your degree define your career? I don't think so, but like, but people making that choice at the time, it's a massive thing to think about. So, do you have any kind of advice for people that are like at that stage, or or would you have changed anything? Like, if you could speak to yourself now when you're at that point, would you change anything?
So there are two things I would change. The first one is like I was always the one learning to understand the things and not to pass an exam. So I made it really hard for me. I always wanted to understand this, and also when you understand this, then okay, that's it. But for exams, you also need to practice for the time, etc., and optimize for this. And I have met someone there who really supported me in this approach. And I think in the second half of university, this was very, very helpful for me for the exams, right? So the masters was way better. So this is just something which I would really tell everyone, like, think about how you learn and not just learn, right? So that's one thing. But now maybe on the bigger trajectory, I think the biggest mistake I made in my life was that beside university, I started to work as a freelancer for automotive market research, which was great. So this is not the failure. And I worked for Porsche and BMW in market research. Then I traveled with them, US, China, and so on, and did a lot of cool stuff with cars which were not, which never have been sold, right? Or like really futuristic things. Okay. And then I thought, after also doing an internship in Munich, I will change my master's major to automotive engineering.
Yeah.
So I thought, because of the career, I was very rational. I now have this freelancing activity. Plus, I have seen BMW from the inside, and I built up a great network there. And then I thought, maybe now I need to study automotive engineering to continue my career at BMW. And I started it. I wrote 3 exams, and I remember I was really in a cinema, in a movie, in a space movie, and then there was this rocket launch, and this was really also a turning point in my life. Again, through media, right? Through science fiction, I was seeing this rocket launch in the cinema, and I was thinking, now I'm studying automotive engineering, and this does not feel right. Yeah. And then and then I really worked on fixing this. So I changed it again back to space engineering, and I lost maybe half a year, but it made me way happier, because then what I learned in the masters, this was really making me happy, and not how a car works. So that's also interesting. But so my recommendation is to really follow the passion, and not what's the best for the CV.
So you strike me as somebody, and I wonder if there's more to this, who kind of fairly autonomous in your, I guess, fairly confident in your abilities to go to just let yourself lead. You mentioned there, you went to go watch another movie, you saw the rocket, and you thought, no, actually, that's what my passion is. I'm going to go that way. Was it mainly kind of you making these decisions for yourself, or did you? And you mentioned that you met somebody who kind of helped you with the exams. So I'm not sure if that's a mentor or something, but were you kind of bouncing your ideas off other people of what you wanted to do, or were you very much like kind of headstrong, like that, like, this is what I want to do, so I'm just going to do it?
So I think I have a few very close friends since childhood, right? So I think also when at my wedding, there was just one person who I don't know since 10 years. It was my co-founder. So I have this few people which know me very well, and I share, of course, the thoughts with them, get some feedback. But at the end, I'm the one making these decisions. And it was very often in my life that I said, no, I want to do this now, and whatever others tell me, I will just do this because I think it's the right thing for me, right? But it's very important to get feedback, but it does not mean that you have to agree with all the feedback. It's more that you need to collect it and then make your own assessment, right? So yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, because having done a few of these kind of I guess interviews now, it's really interesting when you talk to different people from around the world, all of which have kind of ended up going through a path to ultimately lead a business. And for sure, like a massive theme is that people trust themselves and they go, actually, I need to make this decision for me. And that's definitely a common theme. And I think there's lots of people out there who are lost and who struggle for the motivation. You know, I was one of those people. That's why I love to do this, because if there was media out there that could have helped me to actually just focus what I'm doing, you know, perhaps I could have got to where I've got to now much quicker. So it's really interesting that you're another one of those people, you know, who sort of had that confidence and that own belief. So all right, cool. So sorry, go on.
Yeah, there's one thing I want to add to this. When you ask people, hey, is this a good idea or something like this? What I observed is that very often people say, oh, that's not possible. Oh, that's not a good idea. I've seen this like very often. Just to give you a few practical examples, the freelancing activity, I had the opportunity to work 3 weeks in the US. At the same time, where I had to write exams, right? So and you know, then I had to balance it out, and everyone said, oh, that's not possible. And with my friend from university, so he was not my mentor, he was really a friend. I said, okay, let's do this, and we invented the impossible to possible mode. This was really a thing. We have drawn it on the wall and said, well, when all people say it's impossible, let's try to make it possible, right? And at the end, I am surprised how often things work out where others say it's impossible. I can give you 10, 20 examples that would crush the time of the podcast.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I know. So ISI, our business that we work with lots and lots, and Rafal there. Yeah. I know that a lot of his kind of inspiration is from somebody told him that you could not make a satellite that size do what he wanted to do. That was the point. So you guys created the impossible to possible. So how does that work? Because I can tell now there's a lot of people here that are going to be interested in that. So what does that exactly look like?
It's it's very simple to say it's not possible, but the impossible possible mode was, for example, to learn an exam where people say, yeah, you need minimum 3 weeks in 5 days, and then it's more about first of all, we can't lose, right? So it's if we fail, whatever. But at the end, if you think about let's make it happen, you make a plan and you structure it and you act tactical and strategic. And this is actually, I think, the biggest part of success, that, having the confidence, first of all, that you can do something, having also the motivation for extra work, or doing extra miles, but really deconstructing the things to the basics. And then, okay, now we understand this. And maybe also find some shorter paths, right, for the success. And then it can work out. And I mean, as an entrepreneur, like, you always have to have so many challenges, and you always need to make a plan, and then you need to think again about the plan. Everything changes, and so that was really the key for success for me. Yeah.
Really interesting. Yeah. So I guess kind of the entrepreneurial spirit was there kind of right from the start then, really, because as you've referenced, being an entrepreneur is about, it's constant problem solving. Things change. You need to be able to deal with it. You have to be able to spin so many different plates at the same time, and you have to be able to mentally, or people write it down, or people draw it. I'm the same as you. I'm very visual, so I like to draw things and see it. Yeah, and it's about just kind of, when you do that and you actually draw down all the issues, and then you just have it in front of you, you actually realize that's not that bad. One of the other co-founders here, completely different subject here, but whenever he's out with somebody, they're out on the night out, for example, and they want to do a shot, and someone's like, oh, I can't do a shot. He's like, how big is the shot and how big are you? So there you go. And it's a similar sort of thing, right? It's like, when you have these problems, if you actually put them out in front of you, you realize it's actually not that bad. That's really, really, really good advice, for anybody that's kind of feeling a bit overwhelmed or struggling. Just take a breath, write it down. Like, it's, how hard can it be, right? If you're focused.
And it also helps you to not be driven by fear, because I think this is what stops most of the people. And for me, for example, I mentioned, right, you can't lose if you have the success, within 5 days passing this one. And but most of the people have the fear, what if it doesn't happen, or what, like they focus on the negative things. And for me, this fear is really something I don't want to make me drive decisions, right? And also, if you make the plan, if you are a person who has more fears, it gets reduced, because then your subconscious mind and also your conscious mind, you see a way actually to do this, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So So it was the first time that you went on an aeroplane when you were doing the market research then? Because you mentioned that you didn't leave Germany for holidays when you were younger. So was that the first time when you were flying out, to the US? I think you mentioned China as well.
No, it was basically when I was at a tournament in Spain when I was 17 or 18.
Okay.
Which we won, of course.
Of course,
It was basically coming back from the injury after 1.5 years,
okay. So you were angry and fired up then, ready to go. Yeah. But okay, cool. And so that's interesting as well, because a lot of people would look at that opportunity and say no because it's it's a bit too much. And another thing that I've kind of learned from doing these podcasts is, and another theme is when an opportunity presents itself, people say yes, and then they work out afterwards how they're going to deal with it. That's something that comes up a lot. So, you mentioned an internship as well. So how valuable do you think the internship was and this kind of market research role as well to your success?
As an entrepreneur, I think it's a big part of the equation, because space engineering and mechanical engineering is extremely technical, right? And what I learned in market research is having the customer's perspective on it. So we did so-called car clinics. So just imagine you have a new prototype of a car, let's say the new BMW 5 Series. And it's in the early years, like 7 years before it comes to the market, and you have the first designs and so on, right? And you have this prototype with hardware, and you compare it to others, and then we invited people to ask them how they like it. I did this at more than 70 events, right? So in different geographies. So I also learned that different geographies have very different thoughts about products, right? So this was very helpful. But also the internship was more than to see how a corporate works from the inside, because the freelancing activities, it was always events like 14 hours, 15 hours days, etc. Right? But as in an internship, and also I also wrote the bachelor thesis at BMW, you see how the corporate works from the inside. And this was exciting. BMW is a great company. I can really recommend everyone if you want to work in automotive. Really nice company. But I've also seen basically. So I was in project management. I've seen how they organize these big car projects. Was sitting next to the person who can decide the mirror should be different or something like this, right? So that was really insightful. But then also in the thesis, how they do innovation, right? I was in the wind tunnel. Great opportunity. Like I could do so many simulations in this wind tunnel for multiple 10,000s of euros. And at the end, everything seems to be perfect, right? You have this aerodynamics, you have this possibility there. But finally, I've seen to get responsibility in a big corporate will take 10 years, 15 years, because there are so many smart people over there. But in these saturated organizations, it's very hard to be the one who gets the leadership on something. Maybe also European, especially German automotive companies are also more strict with the older person who is now here since a longer time gets the leadership than this young skilled person, right? I think in the US maybe it's a bit different. So what you hear from SpaceX, etc., like young engineers get responsibility about critical systems, right? In Germany they would not do it, or very few would do it. Yeah. So this is what I took away here. So first of all, the business perspective, how a corporate works, and actually also that I want to take more responsibility. That's why this time actually also was helping me to do the entrepreneurial path. Right. I've also seen that I could work in a corporate. I can always go back. Right.
You can always get back.
This confidence. If I now fail, with this degree and also this experience you make as an entrepreneur, you can go back. You will find a job if you have this degree, for example, but also this experience, right, and the passion.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah, I think the large companies, they're amazing, and what they've achieved is incredible. But definitely, it's been a shift, and I think it's been a shift in people's mentality. I went through it myself. Part of the reason why we set up this business is because I actually found myself, I was moving up the management structure in like a huge international business, and I found myself having a meeting. So the company is based in Bristol. We were in London having a meeting about how to improve another meeting. And it's like, hold on a minute, why am I having a meeting about improving a meeting? This is crazy. So, and then your ambition takes over and you're like, right, actually I can achieve so much. And it's really interesting as well because, lots of people, when they graduate from university, from college, they obviously gravitate towards the big companies. Nothing wrong with that at all. But, there's so much opportunity in the smaller companies. I heard Rocket Factory, who in Germany, I heard a third of their workforce is paid interns. Obviously they're mainly doing propulsion systems, which lends itself very well to interns because it's a hardware skill set, and that works. When it's software companies, it's not quite straightforward, but it's really interesting, that you kind of learn that so quickly that you as a person could, you wanted to take on more responsibility, and it's going to take you a long time to kind of climb up the ladder. So you mentioned that's when your entrepreneurial journey started then. So can you paint the picture then? So what happened after university? Did you have a few years out, or or like what happened? What was the thought process? What were the conversations?
Yeah. So maybe one thing also which I did in parallel to university. I also continued to play football even after the 5th knee surgery. And I did this freelancing activity, and I started actually also a small company beside university for a vending machine. So this was the real first company I started together with 2 friends in university. And this was also for us, like we actually thought, the goal was to build a company beside university, which we can manage as students, right? And then we had different ideas. And finally, the vending machine is still standing there. It worked, right? So this was somehow the starting point. Yeah, we made a plan, and now we have a company. We are paying taxes for this, right? And all this bureaucracy, etc. So this was also taking away the fear. But then for me, I think now going more into the new space trajectory, what I've seen back then, it was 2013, 2014. It was a combination of different things. First of all, traveling to the US, I have seen people talking about SpaceX. No one back then talked about SpaceX in Europe, right? Yeah. And then I was investigating it a bit more, right? And then also during the time at BMW, I've seen corporate is not really the way for me. But I also didn't want to work for the big agencies, right? Because that's also more bureaucratic. But I mean, a company in the space industry, without new space sounded ridiculous. But then if you hear that actually there is something going on now and new opportunities arise, that was then going 2015. So that's 2015, I made the decision I will do something in space. That's what I knew. But then, okay, what do you do? Then you think about, oh yeah, let's do another small set constellation, right? Let's do this, let's do that. So for me, the biggest thing was then 2016, I was at a space conference, meeting my co-founder, Sven, right? So he was also at this conference, 2016, there was also it was more like a traditional space company. So I think most of the people were minimum twice as old as Sven and I have been. So it was very easy for us to find us. And then I told him, look, I was living in Munich back then. End of the year, I'm going to move to Berlin and let's talk, right? Yeah. 5 months later, I was in Berlin. I said, let's meet. We went to a bar and we discussed all these space ideas, right? So it was very important for me to find this counterpart who had the same impression. I want to build something in space. I don't know what, but this is a historical thing going on right now with the commercialization of the space industry. And this is what people from the outside, it's very hard to grab. It's very hard to understand the historical context here. For me, it's one of maybe the biggest growth industry we will see in this century, right? It's just the starting point. And so this was for me how I came into new space.
Yeah, it is very interesting, isn't it? Myself and the other founders here, we were kind of friends before, and when you just connect and you gel, you just know, don't you? Fairly quickly. And it's interesting, we went to a space conference as well. I think it was the IAC here. It was in Wales actually. And I remember being sat there with the guys and listening to the talks. And I have nothing but respect for people that have been in the industry for a long time. Like, I promise you, I really, really do. However, I thought, like, shit, like this needs a rebrand. Like, space is cool. Space is space is, yes, it's very hard, but it's very, very cool. And it's vibrant and there's loads of money flowing into it. Yet the people I was looking at that were kind of representing the industry were not that. And, they were like, and it felt like there was a massive disconnect. And it's interesting now seeing all these leaders, this is why I love speaking to people like yourself, because there's all these leaders out there that are cool, they have got a cool business, and it's people, I think, in terms of inspiring more people to enter, this is the sort of thing that we need to be putting at the forefront of the sector. So it's really interesting that you guys you met in Berlin again, it's a cool place. You went to a bar, and you started to sketch out these ideas. That's what it's all about. That's exactly. What I like it. So how did you kind of settle on the idea of this business then? Or did you settle on one idea and then, like most companies, things change and then what you have now is not what you originally planned?
So yeah, it was a cascade somehow. So first of all, the basic question: do we want to do software or hardware? That was something we discussed a lot, because Sven worked at the PT Scientist, who worked on the private moon rover, moon mission, and we had a lot of hardware thoughts, but we have seen in these discussions we had actually that. There's so much going on, and we were maybe 5 years too late for the next satellite constellation. Then it was a path over a few months. We said, okay, let's how can we connect to the ecosystem? And basically in 2016 there was no new space meetup in Europe, and then we just organized a new space meetup, a new space vision. Also mainly here in Berlin, but we had guests like Planet, etc. And this was always like when you are a student and you meet someone at a conference, a founder of a company, and what are you doing? Yeah, I'm a student. They very often it's very hard to find someone who then talks to you in the same way as if you say, we have this space event series, right? Just something to catch. And it was just Sven and me organizing this. And then we connected to the ecosystem. We understood, let's do software. Why? Because we have seen the trend of all these hardware constellations going up, also back then already. And then we also went to a geospatial conference back then, and we have seen that on the application side, it was mainly driven by GIS solutions from the 2000s. So you see already, it's naturally that the supply of data which you can analyze goes up. The capabilities with AI and cloud go up. And the applications look like from the year 2000. And this is the gap, what we said, let's close this gap with LiveEO. With the goal, basically, that you bring information to people who have no idea of geospatial, who just benefit from insights, that they get work orders, for example, which we derive, and use it in the same way as we use GPS today in applications, right? So you don't think about that it's coming from a satellite, you just navigate from A to B or do some logistical problems. And this is what we want to achieve for Earth observation data, basically.
Okay, yeah, that makes absolute sense. It's very interesting, because obviously, listening to that, it's kind of like a perfect, scenario sort of happened really. You guys analyzed the market, you did the meetup, so I guess you were really doing market research there, understanding what the ecosystem looked like, who was who fit together, which again is really smart. And then off the back of that, you took that information and then you decided that you were going to build a product and you were going to go software. So can you just kind of, can you paint more of a picture though of what that was actually like? Because I'm talking here about the logistics of actually, two people with lots of ideas actually setting up a business, because I know that it's the same for you guys as it is for us here in the UK. Setting up a company is actually very straightforward, but when you actually get going and then it's like, shit, now we need to hire somebody. Now I was doing a talk at the Farnborough Air Show last week about that moment in a company where you're like, shit, I actually need to hire somebody more experienced than me. And the reality, you think you're a Ferrari, but actually you're not. You're like a Ford Fiesta, like in reality, So, could you kind of talk us through what was those first steps like in reality, and when did it get hard? Because it sounds at the moment it's like a perfect story. So surely there must have been some hard bits.
Yeah, maybe I talked Sven into something. No, because I mean there are different types of companies you can build up in Germany, right? The GmbH is the classical like limited, but you need 25,000 euros for it to start it, which we didn't have, right? And then there is a light version of a company called GBR. And I did this already beside university, so I knew, oh yeah, we don't need a lot of money for this, right? So you can actually register it with I don't know, €1 or €100 or something like this, really low risk. Also the taxes for revenues below 17,500, you don't need to pay tax VAT, right? And so this was very lean, and because I did it beside university, I said, Sven, yeah, come on, let's start this now. And then we signed this agreement, which I actually reused from university and modified it a bit, right? So it was a template, and we had both €100, which we invested into the company, which had a different name than LiveEO back then.
What was it?
White Sands Earth Observation.
White Sands Earth. How come White Sands?
White Sands. There's these. So you asked about a pivot, right? So White Sands. There is this test facility in the US for the rockets, right? Which is also right now a museum, etc. So that was White Sands, and basically the first idea Sven and I had, which we played around with, was a tourism application where we looked at beaches and the sand and actually, we wanted to build an affiliate-based booking system where you use Earth observation data to say, oh, this is the location where the water is clean. This is the location where it's not so clean, and so on, right? So this is basically what we started with. Yeah.
Nice. And then so start with that application then. So what was kind of the turning point where you start to get the traction, as in so you needed to hire, and how did you do that? By putting in such a small amount of money each, how did you get the revenue into the business to then start to make your first hires?
Yeah. So I think with this tourism application, the cool thing was that it was just Sven and me. We played around with the data on our own, right? So it was we used commercial data and Sentinel data. So the Sentinel data was really an enabler, and we understood remote sensing data because we didn't have a background in this, right? So playing around, playing with the data for, let's say, 6 months helped us to understand this better on the commercial and public data side. But then we realized, okay, the problems we can solve with this could be way bigger than this B2C application. And then we found basically the linear infrastructure case. So that's what we also do today with LiveEO. So monitoring railways, electricity grids, and pipelines. And for us, there was also some things coming together. 2017, there were super huge storms in Germany, where basically a lot of trees have fallen on the railways, way more than the years before. So it was in the news, and then we thought, okay, maybe, because we have seen on the images like vegetation management, we could solve this with satellite data, or we can support them with a data-driven approach here. And we actually contacted this first customer through all different channels at events, etc. And at some point in time, we got a call from the vegetation manager from Deutsche Bahn, who is owning like 100 million plus budget a year. And he said, yeah, I've got your presentation from multiple people, let's talk. And then he asked us, can you tell us how many rails are next to vegetation? And, Sven and me said, yes, we think so. How long does it take? And we said, give us a minute, we're going to call you back. Then we were discussing. Yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, we said. Holy shit, that was horrible 2 weeks. But we came up with a number, and this convinced him basically to, they have an innovation program. And there we got the first 25,000 euros from this customer. In parallel, we won, for example, the Copernicus Masters from the European Commission, a few thousand euros. And then basically accelerators and these anchor customers in the first year it came together to around about 300,000 euros. So, and Sven and I always had the philosophy, even like the first scholarship we got was 1,000 euro a month. And Sven and me, we put half of it to actually pay an intern, right? So we always invested into the people. And then with after this innovation period with the first customer, we landed a 6-digit contract with them. And with this was basically the real the first big success. because with this also, then you have a case. There is a paying customer, right? And then we went to private investors, right? So to venture capitalists, and raised our seed round back then. It was 2019, early 2019, 1.5 million. And then it's becoming a real company, right? Then you can hire, I don't know, like 20 people roundabout. And it was really, it was growing very fast. And till today, we doubled the headcount every year. So now we are at a bit more than 100 people.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it's an incredible achievement. Just you know, we'll need to wrap up soon, but just to rewind slightly, something that I thought was really interesting there was, so the guy that got your presentation said, I've received your presentation from a few people. Yeah. So you guys back then were you in business development mode, like we're talking bit between your teeth, like fully focused? Were you just pushing that out to as many people as possible, like, and just trying to get it, or were you very selective on who you sent it to? Like how that presentation land with that person is what I'm interested to know.
Every person from the German rail operator we met and got an email, we sent it to be honest. Like,
so you just out. Yeah.
But yeah. There was also one interesting thing we realized is the person later told us he never heard about satellite technology, and that you know, you can solve his problem. That was 2018. In 2022 now, vegetation management with satellites for electricity grids. Or railways, that's a big thing, and also competitors are rising, right? But back Absolutely. Then it was really a new thing. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you put that down to luck or judgment? You know, because every business that goes very successful needs that bit of luck, or that moment where, you know, you're about to go and then and something saves it. Like, you know, was it a calculated decision to go after those particular people?
Yes, yeah, it was. So, you know, I think you need to increase the probability for luck.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
That's why the more outreach you do, you know, just probabilistically, then you will get some feedback. And for us, it was the most important thing. That's also with the tourism application. We went into a call with Trivago, right, which is one of the biggest companies there, to get feedback. And we just wanted to get feedback from this railway operator because we thought it makes so much sense. There has to be a business case. We need feedback. And basically, we got this feedback was positive, right? And then, so I think it's at the end a summary of a lot of small decisions we made, which you then, you know, if you just look from the beginning to the end, it looks like luck, but it's the sum of all these small decisions you're making, right?
Yeah. No, I just laugh because, you know, the amount of people that say, you know, because we've actually been through a kind of similar journey. You know, every year we've been twice the size. You know, the revenue's done the same thing. We only put a small investment ourselves. You know, and like so, but the amount of people that are like, "Oh, you guys are just lucky," and you're like, it's not really. No, it's been you know, it's been super hard work. So, but yeah, I know what you mean. But you have to be in the right place at the right time. But you have to be there in the first place. You know, that's the thing. So, okay, cool. So I've just got two more questions really. So, you know, you've kind of given us a really nice kind of lead up there in terms of how you've got to where you are today. I'm really keen to understand, like, what's the culture of your business? Because obviously, you know, you're, you know, kind of an entrepreneur running a business, you know, I know you had the vending machine at university, but this is kind of the first one, you know, and it's gone well. So how do you see the culture in your business, you know, because the culture is everything, you know, in my opinion. So how would you define your business from a culture perspective?
From a coach perspective?
Yeah, as in, you know, like, you know, when you have people in the business, you know, how are you? Because you know, I've looked at your guys' numbers. You know, you've attracted a lot of people to your business, and you've also retained a lot of people. So I'm just curious to know, like, what do you do? You know, what's your ethos as a business when it comes to your people?
So at LiveEO, like, we today have more than 30 nationalities working, most of them here in Berlin, actually. So I think the diversity is one of is actually the key to success. Also, as a software company, you see very often not a lot of diversity also in the gender, right? But we have, for example, more than 30% female employees, and this was not always like this, and like we had some measures to improve this. And I think I had the feeling that as soon as you had the first, for example, female developers, then just in the interviewing process, if a female developer gets interviewed by a female developer, it is a different thing, and this company may be more attractive, right? And the same with the diversity on the nationalities, right? It's really important for us, and it adds so much value that you have also this cognitive diversity. That's also super important for me, also in the leadership team, right? That not everyone is thinking the same, and oh yeah, let's all do this, and at the end, you don't see so many different options. So this is I think a key for the culture at LiveEO. So this diversity, and also having a very, very open communication. Everyone can ask questions. I'm having daily one-on-ones with lunch one-on-ones because I have to eat every day across the company, right? From intern to C-level. I'm doing these daily meetings. So also the communication across the levels, it's super, super important for us.
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir on all of that. I think having a diverse workforce, and again, it's not just about male and female, it's about people with different mindsets, different work ethics. We have somebody here that definitely has ADHD, 100%, and he's next to somebody from a very kind of interesting and different background, and he's a lot older and he's a lot younger, and you wouldn't put these people together, but when you do, they've got like a bromance, and they're coming up with all these different ideas, and they're spurring each other on, and they're hyping each other up, and it's a beautiful thing to see. And I do understand what you say from a female perspective, and it's interesting because a lot of companies just advertise their jobs, but women are 6 times less likely to apply to an advert. 6 times less likely, so it's like there's all these different things, all these different lessons, but I could talk to you about that all day long. But yeah, so and then I guess the final question is, what would be, I guess, your best advice to somebody that's looking to enter into the sector? Because there's lots of people coming out of university. A big barrier here. This big barrier exists between getting, what would be your advice?
So we need a lot of people in the space ecosystem outside of the space ecosystem. So what we don't need is another space engineer, another remote sensing engineer. We need software engineers. We need salespeople. We need people who build cloud systems. So basically, I think if you now want to enter the industry and you have no idea of space, but you found it exciting, that's exactly the people we need. Like, we need to get all of the people into the ecosystem, and the space stuff you will learn. It's for me, and I see this also talking to the colleagues. The people who work in the space industry, they also are a bit different. They are very visionary. They think about our planet, and like sustainability. It's just their standard, and they really try to think about how can we achieve this. And even if you work for a rocket company like ESA Aerospace, you are enabling satellites moving up to monitor climate change. So I think it really ticks all the boxes which you need for a successful life, also for a happy life. And that's maybe just give it a try. And there are so many possibilities, software, hardware. Sometimes when I look and we plot the ecosystem with companies and players, and there's just so much complexity here. So there's so many different players. Now I don't want to talk about all the companies, but software, hardware, everything is there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we're redoing our website at the moment, and it says space for everyone. That's what the thing is, because I completely agree with you. There's every skill set. My God. I mean, we have actually placed astronauts before. I've always said to people it's more than astronauts, and then we actually place an astronaut, and I kind of had to eat my own words. But I mean, everything from admin assistants to HR to legal to every single skill set is needed, and companies are making a difference. So I completely agree with you on that. Well, look, thank you so much for your time on that. It's been really, really interesting to hear your story and to hear how things have gone through. And I think there's some really good advice in there for people. Whether you're a student, whether you're C-level, whatever it is, if you want to pivot in, listen to this, because there's some amazing advice there. So thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Also, thanks for the time, and of course, for the listeners, we just closed close to 20 million euros round, and of course, we will hire a lot of people.
Exactly. You know where to go.
Perfect.